All right, so today is, like I just said, Tech Talk, 6 super simple steps for online security, presented by Beth Z, AKA your nerdy best friend. My name is Krista Carter. I'm the Vice President of the West Orange Chamber, and I just want to remind you that this is being recorded. So don't say anything you don't want recorded. All right, once again, thank you for joining us today for our third installment of this virtual opportunity series. Each of these events in this virtual series will touch on a different topic such as marketing, social media, productivity, security for today. We're excited to be able to offer this year-long program from Beth Z, who is a nationally recognized author, speaker, and like I said, our self-proclaimed tech nerd, who is known for her fun and engaging programs that are packed with the latest tech trends and research advice that you can benefit from. Okay, before we get started with today's pre-recorded webinar, I would like to take a moment to thank our 2021 virtual event series sponsor and a long-standing West Orange Chamber community trustee, Advent Health. We are so thankful for their continued partnership and support. Now, Cara McDaniel, she was joining us today to give us a sponsor message, but she's not feeling well. So I said, don't worry, I'll take care of it. So let me tell you a little bit about Advent Health. Advent Health prides itself in the whole person care, which is focused on healing the mind, the body, and the spirit. Advent Health is thrilled to expand that care in the West Orange community. They are currently under construction for a new inpatient tower that will allow additional access to specialties right here in the West Orange community. With this expansion, we will now have the ability to get that great inpatient care that we need without having to leave the community we love. Advent Health looks forward to keeping you updated and celebrating this exciting milestone as they're scheduled to open in May of 2022. That's right around the corner. So we want to thank Advent Health for their continued support of the West Orange Chamber and for the West Orange business community. All right, and since I'm saying thank you, I would like to take a few more moments to thank our 2021 Board of Directors, including our 2021 Chairwoman, Camille Evans, who is a managing partner of Virtus LLP. We want to thank all of our chamber leadership for their continued support and guidance. And if you want to know who is on the 2021 Board of Directors, go to wochamber.com and you can see them all listed there. And better yet, if you think that you would like to join the Board of Directors, now is the time to nominate. They're taking nominations, so you can see that on the website as well. And while you're there, please take a moment to look at our community and supporting trustees. Our trustees have invested in the West Orange business community at the highest level of membership. Their investment helps us produce programming that benefits all chamber membership, which in turn benefits the entire West Orange business community. I want to thank our trustees.
This session is 6 steps, 6 super simple steps for online security. And it's all about taking small pieces of your life and upgrading them so you can surf better online. And this is one of the problems. So this is all of us, right? This is us going about our lives, and this is someone who is expecting a new credit card in the mail. This is one of us who just picked up our new business cards with our cell number on it. This person wasted the entire afternoon trying to remember a password. This person enjoyed an afternoon in the coffee shop now that we're all getting out again after some COVID restrictions have been lifted. Getting out in the coffee shop and surfing the web. And this person downloaded a fun new weather app with location-based services. Of course, these are the things we do. This is how we live our lives and what goes on. But we need to think about all of those things that we do every single day and don't panic. Now that's an acronym I'm using today for 5 areas where we can improve. This is 6 simple steps, so we're going to break it down a little bit, but this is 5 areas where we can improve. P, passwords. A, addresses. N, numbers, internet, and computers. All of these areas are where we can take little bitty steps to improve. Why do we need to improve our online security? Well, there's two levels of problems here. The first, nobody will be surprised by this, is because of hackers, right? All the people who want to do horrible things to you and your identity and your money, and even taking over your computers, and even scamming people you know and love, and breaking into your entire company's system and putting on the ransomware. Hackers are horrible people, and they have found so many ways to get into the computer systems that we know and use and steal our things. That's no surprise. But one other piece that we need to be aware of when it comes to online security is another type of bad guy, which is marketers. Now, marketers have your data. Google has your data, Facebook has your data, all these major people have your data. But how they use that, it's important to understand what they're doing and what they're using the information for and the information we are giving them. So we're trying to prevent two different types of online exploitation, and that is from hackers and from marketers. Let's talk about step one. And step one is going to be the one we spend a lot more time on because it's so critical. It is the P in don't panic, passwords. Now, before we get started, I want y'all to be honest. How many of you reuse your passwords? How many of you reuse the passwords that you have, even if you just do it once or twice? We have guilty or not guilty. Let me know, are you reusing your passwords? Write this down. If you take only one thing from this entire session, know that you need to have a unique, unguessable password for every single site you visit. This is not negotiable. This is, I'm going to watch this and kind of ignore these pieces. This is the most critical part. And I'm about to tell you why, because there are all kinds of things that can happen when people have your passwords. Let me show you. There's a lot of excuses that people use about passwords. And you're like, but Beth, here is the deal. With passwords, I can't possibly remember them all. I only reuse them on some sites, Beth, and it just doesn't matter. They're going to get them anyway. Passwords are the bane of our existence, and we are always, always trying to get them under control. Let's talk about the worst passwords. Here are some very recent statistics. This is from 2021 about the passwords that we know and love. With increasing number of data breaches, taking care of your passwords is as essential as ever. Yeah, see, it's not just me. Here are the most commonly used passwords in the world. Believe it or not, the word password is not number one. It's actually in the top 5 usually, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If you're doing something clever like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, they're on to you. And you need a new solution. So these show up the most often, but here are some of the things to know about the password use in general. They analyzed 15.2 billion passwords. One of the most interesting things were the password choices they use. Making a rough assumption that they did, people use their birth year, the year the password was created, or a special year. So a lot of times people will use that as a benchmark for a lot of their passwords. The year 2010 had nearly 10 million versions of this year used in passwords. The second most popular was 1987, 1991, which is kind of crazy, but frequently years will show up in passwords. So the internet's favorite name as a password. A lot of people use names as passwords, and they're their dogs' names, which are always popular. They're their kids' names. Eva, Alex, Anna, Max, Ava, Ella, Leo. These are very popular names of children, and these are very popular names of pets. It turns out Darcy and Darcy were the least popular. The most popular sports teams are frequently used. So we have the Suns, the Heat, the Red, the Magic, Liverpool, Angels, Kings. Very frequently, we will use something we like as a password. Now, I'm going to go past this one. Curse words are very common in passwords. Cities are very common in passwords. There are some top months, days, and seasons. So a lot of people do things like, if you have to change it every month, they'll do things like May 2010, then July 2010. They'll keep using dates and months and weekdays as passwords. They'll use food. This is a smaller category, but used food like ice and tea, pie. And the number of characters used is a really critical note here. The length of the password character, most passwords had 8 or fewer characters. That combined with the probability that passwords weren't too complex made up easily guessed passwords in there. So the bad guys use the characteristics they know about what our habits are to put those in the lowest common denominator and guess passwords. All right, I want you to, in the chat, go ahead and let us know what are any of those things that you did. Just put guilty or not guilty. You don't have to tell us any of the characteristics about what they are. All right, we have guilty from Dana. Oh, Samantha says she doesn't have that. Several people say not guilty. Guilty for almost half of them. That was my nephew. Jameson, stay after class. You're going to have to do some other things. Again, these are the characteristics of passwords that are out there. Thus, the bad guys know that it's easy to guess them because of these characteristics. Now, throughout this presentation, I want you to remember that you may be taking this class, you may be saying, I am not breaking password rules, but I want you to think about other people in your life, your spouse, your parents, your kids. Is everybody in your world taking steps to protect their information? Now, Jameson's mother is my sister, and I guarantee you she breaks a lot of these rules. And it's important for us to remember this and help others when it comes to password management. All right, coming back to our presentation. The worst passwords we already talked about, those characteristics. Password is usually number 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are a lot of bands that show up in addition to the ones I talked about, sports teams, bands, names, Superman, I love you, phrases like that frequently will show up in the password list. 81% of breaches, 81% of breaches ended up having to do somewhat with passwords somewhere in the world. All right, we're going to do an exercise. Rather than calling on each one of you individually, I want every single one of us to go to a site called Have I Been Pwned? We're going to do some hands-on things here. The first thing I want you to do is put in the email address you use most often. So I'm going to go beth@yournerdybestfriend.com, and I'm going to click Pwned. Now, what this is doing is it's looking at existing databases and helping you figure out if the email you use is already on some of the sites. So this email has been in 5 data breaches. And then I want you to scroll down and find out very specifically where it's been used. So those of you who are watching this later, this is for you as well. Stop what you're doing and check this out. So mine, Animoto, which is a tool I've been using for years, they were hacked they were exposed in July 2018. Chatbooks, I've been using that. It's a tool to create these cute little scrapbooks, March of 2020. Covey, I don't remember this, from the Covey Contacts app. Okay, I signed up for a lot of things. That was very recent, February 2022. Dub Smash, December 2018, and Minted, again, this was 20 as well. How many of y'all found out that you have been pwned? Probably several of you. As soon as you see that you've been pwned, which is owned with a P because nerds don't get out much, I want you to take a look and see what was taken. Dates of birth, email addresses, geographic locations. Now, some of this, when it was taken, is still encrypted, so it was hard for bad guys to read. But if you have a very simple password of 8 characters or less, it is much easier for them to crack the codes. Email addresses, names, password, phone numbers, social media profiles. Think of what marketers do with this and think of what hackers can do with this. All kinds of things. Now we're also going to take a pause. You've checked one, check several emails. So I am going to just pull up here and I want you to try at least 3 of your other emails. Now let's do another test. How many of y'all have saved your phone number for many years? It's funny, a lot of us, people say that your phone number that you have on your mobile device is where you graduated from college or where you graduated from high school these days, because we keep these phone numbers when we have them no matter where we move. So you can also check to see if your phone number has been involved. And when we get to the phone number section, I'll tell you why that's important. So everybody take a minute. I am going to check some phone numbers. I think you may need to put the dashes in. Let me try the dashes. So it's important for you to put your phone numbers in there as well so that you can see if your phone numbers have been involved. And again, we're going to get to that in just a minute. Now, here's another secret one. Across the top, it says passwords. So on the site, I want you to look for the word password on the top of the screen. Click password, and now it's going to show up as hashes. If you're worried about the site, you can read all of the fine print about why this is one of the most reputable sites. And there are several databases like this out there. But here is a password that I always thought was clever, and it has been seen 360 times before. Everybody stop and check passwords. Now this one is my sister's password. I know it because she's used it for many years. 1,768 times before. In the chat, or for those of you who are playing along at home, in the chat or somewhere else, make a note. How many times has your password shown up? So many times our passwords show up in these lists. Here is the deal. People, the bad guys, have these databases. Even if your username and password are hashed up or whatever, the bad guys have these databases and have these, so they have usernames and passwords. So even if they're not found together, they have software that in milliseconds tests all the known passwords, or the most popular known passwords, not the top 100, like a whole bunch, and all of the email addresses they know out there. They try every combination. That's why if you are using and reusing the same username password combo on different sites, that's where you're going to get in trouble. Again, you can check yours, but now come back in and check family members. All right. Let's talk about how to protect your passwords. There are really 4 and growing techniques when it comes to that in 2021. You can have a password manager, you can use two-factor authentication, you can use biometrics, and you can use an external device. So we'll talk about each one, but let me first give you a little quiz. And you don't have to respond to this quiz here, just answer it in your head. There is a department in the government that sets the standard, the US government, that sets the standard for when a third-party vendor wants to work with the government and hook into their computer systems, they have to meet these standards. The last time they rewrote this manual, they changed a specific recommendation about passwords. Which of the following did they recommend for password security? Was it to change it every 30 days, to use complex passwords like change the L for an exclamation point, all those things, to create long passwords, or all of the above? Well, many of you are thinking that obviously it's D, all of the above, but guess what? It is not. It is to create long passwords. Now, I feel the energy in this room changing. I know that people are like, Beth, you are wrong. I know that we are supposed to always do all those things. But that's not true. And the bad guys know that we are no good at these things. So if you are talking about changing every 30 days, remember when we were talking about the number of months and things like that in the months, the most used passwords? So what happens is if somebody says change every 30 days, you say May, dog's name, 2010, June, dog's name, 2010. They know we do that. If you add an exclamation point for an L in passwords, well, the person who first mentioned that regrets it, because again, those show up in the whole giant databases, all those substitutions using the common passwords and the passwords they know we probably use. They try all those. So that doesn't work. The two that they recommended the most were using a password manager and creating long passwords. So let's talk creating good passwords. You're going to use unique passwords. You're going to avoid passwords with your name and birth year, just like we saw in those statistics. And you're going to keep track of them in a very reliable place. And like I said, you're going to have a unique, unguessable password for every single site you visit. Here's a couple of other places that you shouldn't store them. Don't store them in your contact list or an unsecured document that's cleverly named passwords that a lot of us use. And anything easily guessed is not safe. So let's talk about password managers themselves. There are so many. Does anybody have one that you already use? There are so many in this category that are reputable. There's one called 1Password, there's Keeper, there is Dashlane, there is LastPass, and everybody got mad at LastPass, so a lot of people now switch to Bitwarden because Bitwarden has the same free version levels that LastPass used to have. But guess what? Most of these cost less than $50 a year. LastPass is $3 a month for a really robust personal level. So you don't really have an excuse for not using LastPass or some kind of a password manager. Some people are using RoboForm, LastPass, whatever you're using, you need to use something. And let me just show you, like I said, Bitwarden is one that everybody loves. Let me show you how they work. I'll sign up for Bitwarden. I'm going to click Get Started on Bitwarden. Here's what LastPass does. I can do my email address. Now actually, and we'll talk about this in just a second, I'm going to do a fake email address because I don't really want to sign up for Bitwarden yet. And I'm going to call myself Beth. And then I'm going to click Master Password. Now over here is a little redo sign or whatever. And when I click on that, LastPass lets me create a password. Now, here's one of the things I learned about LastPass. Even those of us who are using password managers, frequently we use it to manage the passwords we have already made, and we don't take the time to create really creative passwords. We use our regular ones and just have it save it for convenience. So I'm going to click Fill Password. Well, let me show you the options here first. Look at this password length. You want 20 or more. You want as many as possible. Uppercase, lowercase, numbers, symbols, all characters, what have you. You want to do it. Now, you might want to not do all characters, because sometimes on international sites, it doesn't read our characters the right way. So I'm going to click Fill Password. Now it puts it in both places. And on the right, it says Add Password. So now every time I come back to this site to log on, all I need to do is use LastPass and it'll always be there by checking a box, and then I submit. Now I am signed up. And the next time I come back here, you can see it's underneath this little other box, because that's another tool I have. But there's a 1 underneath there, and I will be able to click on the LastPass to fill it. Again, you want to make sure that you are doing unique, unguessable passwords on every site and using LastPass and all these password managers to the fullest, because you don't want to get lazy with those tools. Let's go to step 2, because that is a huge recommendation from the government and from everybody else. Step 2 is to use two-factor authentication every single time. Now, two-factor authentication is a simple concept. It is when it's that annoying thing when it says, we need to text you a number in another place, or we need to give you another way to prove that you are who you say you are. And so we're going to use a different device or a different situation and send you more information that you have to use to verify. So two-factor authentication is incredibly important for keeping your security safe. The level of security goes way higher once you use two-factor authentication. There are lots of ways to do it. I haven't written anything out like this, so I found for y'all a wonderful site, and I'm going to put this in the chat. I found a wonderful site that has a whole bunch of different places and ways that you can set up your two-factor authentication, because a lot of sites have it built in, and other places you can use a third-party authenticator that will generate random numbers and you can hook it up. But Amazon has the two-factor authentication. Apple has it in a lot of different ways. It can send you texts. Google has it where you have to go and open up your Gmail account is one way. Dashlane has it. Dropbox, all of these, I want you to go through here and look at all the places that you can enable the two-factor authentication and verification on different sites. Instagram, some of them are a little bit hard to find, Intuit, all these things. And again, you want to enable it every time. It is annoying. I can't tell you the number of times my husband and I share an Amazon account, obviously, and I can't tell you the number of times in the middle of the day I'll get a note that says your Amazon two-factor authentication number is this, and it's because DJ is trying to buy something and he can't because I have the two-factor authentication. So come on into this list, go through here, and determine which tool you have and how you can set things up. The cool thing about two-factor authentication tools is that some of them will let you have that authentication on sites that don't even have it built in. You can set it up so that it's an authenticator tool for several different sites. And you can set it up so that even on sites that don't have it built in, you can get that authentication and get your security higher. So that is step 2. part of the password situation, so it's step 1.5, I guess, is to think about having an external device. Now, I don't find this to be the most helpful, but when Google implemented using another device to help them log in, the amount of fraud that was happening when their people were trying to use passwords went down 99%. They had almost no breaches after they implemented this. And it is another device. Now let me show you. I've got a little video here. That's called a YubiKey. Google made one for an authenticator, and it's it's a physical device that has to be with you, and it'll hold all your passwords and manage them for you. They can actually be used with LastPass and other tools in conjunction. Now, since I've been speaking, I have lost 3 USB devices. I would never, never allow myself to use a physical tool because I am forever like misplacing things. But these are very helpful. We're moving on to step 3, and now we're going into the next letter, addresses. And don't panic, we are on A, addresses. Now we're going to start going a lot faster now that we've gotten the password situation under control. Remember when I talked to you about that little icon that showed up in the blank address bar I had, and I pressed on that and said we were going to do it? You need to manage your email addresses and hold on to them as much as you can. So I said I didn't want Bitwarden to have my email address. And here are a couple of ways that you can do fake email addresses to make sure that you don't have to give out your email address. Now, the one I used was Burner Mail, and it is been around a long time. This is my dashboard for Burner Mail. I go ahead and upgrade, and I think it's like $20 a year to get all of the ones I want, but I don't have to have, I think you can have 5 for free. But every time I go to a site and there is a place to put my email address in, it will let me click that little icon to put in a fake email address that still comes to me, but I don't have to monitor it, and they never have my real email address. So easy to do. And it comes as if you look way up here at the top, it comes as a Google or a Chrome plugin. Email on deck, you click I'm not a robot, and you click get email. It gives me an email address, and then I can go in and put it. This is great for when you have like a site says, hey, download this white paper and get all these tips. And you're like, great, but I know you're a marketer and I know you're going to spam me and I don't want you to have my email address. So I will use an email on deck. And then as soon as I sign up for the site and put my email address in there, they'll send the link to download or whatever, and they'll send it to email on deck. And this lasts about 10 minutes. So as soon as this inbox receives it, then I never have to come back here again because I've got the link to the property that I want, and it kind of fakes it. Very, very, very handy to have. I use this and Burner Mail at least twice a week on different things. But like I said, I sign up for all kinds of stuff. Let's talk about your physical address. It's important to manage your location features on your phone. So every moment of every day, there are apps that are being used on your phone that track your location. Now, both Apple and Google are trying to limit some of that stuff and make sure you understand what rights you're giving away. The New York Times looked at a bunch of apps. They found that several weather apps were selling the information about where you were. They found some kids apps, some games that were showing the location of where children were. All of these different violations of your privacy. This was a middle school, and this was the New York Times again. This was a middle school, and it showed when kids got to school using these apps that were tracking locations, when kids got to school, where they were hanging out, when they were leaving, and where they went afterwards. So all of these things were tracked. Google tracks my location. I'm okay with that because I like things like this. Here is one day then that Google tracked. I was speaking at the Grand Ole Opry Hotel, which is 20 minutes from my house, 30 minutes from my house. And I took all kinds of pictures there. Then a friend of mine called and said, hey, why don't we meet up? And we met up for coffee, and I took some pictures there. It showed the place we had coffee. It showed how long it took me to drive there and what mode of transportation I did. Then it showed me going back to my house. It showed me taking more pictures and sharing more things from my house. All of these things were documented by Google. Here are some places you can check for tracking. On Apple, go to settings, privacy, set up, I do it mostly that it's okay when I'm using the app, but not most of the time. And then Android, there are tools that are coming out that will help you with location even more. There's an app called Jumbo that helps you with, let me go back to that. Jumbo helps you with some of these privacy and location awareness things. It's an app that you download. It does have a free version. It kind of threatens you into looking like it only has a paid version, but it does have a free version, and it monitors a lot of your location settings and your privacy settings on a lot of your social media and your phone. This is something that's surprising for a lot of people, and a lot of people haven't signed up for this yet. Your home addresses. So USPS is very helpful. They have a system where you can sign up and get notifications and scans of the mail that's coming to your house. Well, some bad guys have gone in and claimed your house, and they know what mail is coming to your house before you do, and they can see when you're getting the credit cards and do some mail fraud. I know, pretty horrible. Step 4 is talking about the next letter of the word panic, and that is numbers. Many of us share our phone numbers. It's funny, I keep talking about my sister. She's so generous. The other day she sent me a gift from one of her students that started a company, and she sent me this little gift basket that they put together. And I got this random text that says, hey, your package is on the way. Well, it looked to me like a scam, but I was kind of thinking my sister might have done it, and I texted her first just to make sure, and sure enough, she had given them my cell phone number. You want to guard your cell phone number with all that you can. When you go into a store and they say, can we have your cell phone number for our system so we can look you up? Say, no, thank you, unless you really want them to have it. This is how a lot of phone spam happens. When your cell phone number starts getting out there, people can spam you and convince you, do fake two-factor authentication, find out all information about you. Again, we have this information in your handouts, but this was another New York Times study. In an hour, just by using a cell phone number, a social hacker was able to find out home address, information about square footage, past addresses for the last decade. What happens when you apply for credit? A lot of times they will ask you, what are your past addresses? The full names of your mother, sister, all these people. What happens when you're asked for password information? A lot of times it's your mother's maiden name or other information like that. Past phone numbers, information about a property I own, criminal history. All these different things were able to be found out from a cell phone number. Now, this is publicly available information, but it is easier to find when they have that cell phone number. What can a hacker do? They can go in there and they can reset passwords with your mother maiden name. They can trick a customer service agent into stealing your numbers. It's called SIM swapping. So they trick AT&T into giving you different numbers. They can control accounts, the two-factor authentication. They can say, put this code in there. If they have your Google email address and your cell phone number, you can very much expect that they will try to reset things if the bad guys get a hold of it. They will spoof your phone number. Now, the end of June, like right now, phone companies have to have implemented some security measures so that people are not allowed to use fake numbers to call you. But we'll see how well that goes. And they can target you for phishing and robocalls. All of these things they can do if they get a hold of your other information. So with numbers, you want to make sure you get this taken care of. You can start using Google Voice. Google Voice is a free phone number that manages your other phone calls. So you can put multiple numbers into Google Voice so that they're routed different ways. And it lets you do the transcription of your voice messages and all kinds of things, but it protects you a little bit. And then there are some burner phones. There's one called Sideline. These are for if you're dating, if you're using these phone numbers for other things, you can pay a small amount of money. Some of them are like $4 a month to get a separate phone number. All right, we're down to step 5. Internet. You need to have a VPN. I am not kidding you. You need a VPN. Watch this.
How a VPN works in 2 minutes. VPN stands for Virtual Private Network. It's a way of making your internet connection private. First, let's look at how your internet works today. Every computer on the internet has an IP address, which looks something like this. It's a lot like a phone number or home address. When you use the internet, your computer makes connections to other computers, basically by calling up their IP addresses. To get where it's going, your data has to make a few hops between different servers and routers. These hops are what make the internet work, but they do bring some security risks. Because your data passes through so many different hands, third parties can tap into your network traffic and view unencrypted data as plain text. Even when you use a secure website like a bank, a third party can still easily see what sites you're accessing by looking at IP addresses. A VPN solves these problems by sending all your traffic through a single VPN server and encrypting it. This makes your network communications look like gibberish to an unauthorized viewer. A VPN also stops you from leaving your IP address calling card with every website you visit. This helps protect your anonymity and makes your online activity much less useful to marketers, hackers, and data miners. Many commercial VPNs, like Netscape, offer servers in a number of countries. This lets users access the internet as seen in different parts of the world, sort of like teleporting yourself to a different location for internet access. This is why VPNs are a favorite with travelers and expats. Let's see a VPN in action. Here's Netscape for Mac. Pick a server from the menu and in a few seconds you've got a VPN connection. Your IP address has changed, you can access overseas content, and all your communications are encrypted.
I know there are a lot of people who have a lot of excuses about VPNs and about why you don't use them, including things like they sound complicated and intimidating, they'll slow them down, and they're hard to set up. But that's not true. Like I said, they are improving all the time when it comes to how fast they are and how easy they are to put together. I chose NordVPN. That's what I use on my computer. I don't use it at home because my router has some protections, but every time I am traveling, first off, I don't use the internet at all. I use my hotspot if I can. I have unlimited data, but if I am using public Wi-Fi, I will always use my VPN so that it hides my presence from the web. The ExpressVPN always comes out on top over NordVPN. They're both kind of 1 and 2. I chose Nord because you can put it on multiple devices for free. And then Windscribe has a free level that makes it easy to use, but sometimes people don't like to use the free level. They want to go ahead and pay for it, and it's very easy to get higher levels of data very quickly. So you swing past the free level fairly quickly. Use an ad blocker tool to stop people from tracking you on the internet. I use AdBlock Plus. That is one I've used for many years. It does let some kind of sponsor people have pop-ups, but let me show you how much it helps. So here I am on Yahoo News, and here in the Chrome browser, it says AdBlock Plus. There are 29 different things that are being blocked on this page. 30 on this page, it's probably finding more. So this is ads, this is trackers, all kinds of things are being blocked. Now, if I take that off and refresh it, all the different things will show up that were blocked before, and it gets kind of annoying. But I can go back to blocking this site, and all of these different elements go away. It's not blocking what I'm looking at and seeing, and it just makes me feel a little bit better. Now, Google Chrome was going to block cookies, and they just decided to push that back to 2023, like they decided just the other day. All right, let's go back and finish up with our steps. Step 6 is the last one, and this one is computers. Now, let's do a little experiment here. I want you to pick up your phone. Pick up your phone. I know it's right there next to you. Pick up your phone and then pretend that you are not you. Let's say somebody finds your phone. Pick up your phone, pretend it's not you, so don't use your face or your code to put it in, and kind of angle it off to the side. Now, first thing, is there a password on your phone? That is the first thing. If you don't have a password or some kind of security on your phone, and a good one, like people you can see sometimes on TV, they will be putting in their password and it's 1111 or a very easy number or a short one, and people can very quickly see that. So if you don't have a good password on there, you need to put one on. And here is another thing. Let's pretend that your phone is not there. Pretend that you do have a password, and then start, again, you're angling it away. Start playing around until you're going to see something come up asking for your password. So get it to where it's asking for a code, and then I want you to take a look. Down here, does it say emergency or somewhere on your screen? Hit that button. Now it won't call right away. Hit that button and then see if it says medical ID down at the bottom. This is another way that you can protect yourself, right? So when I click on medical ID, I have set up my information in the phone. And this is the first place that if you are sick, if you're in an accident and you're unconscious, that is the first place that medical responders look, is to see if you have medical ID. So that's where you can find it. All right, that is computers. Make sure that you've got a passcode on your phone. Make sure you have a passcode on your computer. I have had computers stolen in a matter of seconds, and if you don't have a passcode, you are screwed. All right, that was 6 simple steps for online security. I hope that you have enjoyed this session. I am Beth at yournerdybestfriend.com if you have any more questions. And until then, I will say, everyone, nerd on. Thank you so much.